Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another How Would I Judge a Drag Race season. Today, we are going to go over season 12, one of the most iconic seasons of US Drag Race. It's really just, the cast is really so incredibly stellar, except for, the person who currently has a blocked out target over their face. And um, yeah, it's just really just a great season of television, and I'm so excited to get into this with you all. The rules to remember are that the season has to be as long as season 12 originally was, which is 14 episodes, 12 of which were competitive episodes, so we're going to be really just mainly talking about 12 episodes here, but we'll talk about all of them. And the performances and challenges need to be based off of how well someone did or how well people would predict they would do. Just because somebody was in the top and I don't care for them or their performance in that challenge doesn't mean I'm putting them in the bottom, and vice versa. The goal is to act as if I'm the head judge and craft the season however I can imagine to make it as fun and eventful as possible, and also to be fair with my judging of the season by combining my own personal tastes and what was shown to us on the show. So, let us get started with episode 1. Starting off with episode 1, we are going to keep our split premiere, and in this episode, they have to write lyrics to RuPaul's song "I'm That Bitch" and do the spring and fall runways. And my placements that I chose are pretty similar to the ones that happened originally. We do still have Widow Von Du and Gigi Good in the top 2 positions for the week. I just genuinely think they do the best in both parts of the challenge, and that's how it was originally, so I think it's very fair to keep it that way. And in the listening to Starships, Widow is going to absolutely kill it and is going to win the episode. And I mean, that lip sync is one of the most watched lip syncs on the Drag Race YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure, if you go look it up. Because I remember seeing an Instagram post, it was probably by like Drag Race Statistics or another one of the awesome Drag Race Instagram accounts. But it is one of the most watched on their channel, so she really killed it there. Now, the way I like to interpret split premieres in which nobody goes home is, well, my philosophy is that if the episode is set in which nobody will be going home at the end of the episode, nobody can place below safe. Because I think the low placement implies that somebody did worse. Whereas a safe placement implies that you did fine, you're safe, you're moving on to the next episode. So I don't think it's fair to put anybody as low in any episode where it is already designated that nobody can go home. So what I like to do with these episodes is that we already have our top 2 to round out our tops, which is usually 3 people. Got to give a high placement to someone. I give the high placement to Jackie Cox. I thought her like 60s inspired runways were pretty damn cool, honestly. And her performance in the I'm That Bitch challenge is pretty good too. I think you could have put Nikki or Britta probably in the top, would be the other 2 that would be like considered just based off of the challenge performances. But I personally decided to put Jackie, and then everybody else places safe. So yeah, Widow gets her win, and we move on to episode 2. In episode 2, we have our same contestants as we did originally. I decided to take that queen out of the top 2 placement and give it to Jan, because I do think Jan did better in the challenge. I understand the critique of her verse being like too much, I can get that, but I still think that she did pretty dang good in the challenge and on the runway, so I would put her in that top 2 with Jada Essence Hall. And Jada is still going to win the lip sync, though, to Call Your Girlfriend by Robin, because she absolutely killed it the first time. That like high kick into the fucking split was just everything we needed. And I'm going to give Rock'em Sakura the high placement here, because her runway looks are also pretty killer, I would say. They were some of the best for me. And her verse was fine, but I think the overall package is good enough to land her in that 3rd spot, and that's where I would put her if I was the person judging it. So the critique that Michelle gave Rock about like the fart humor is just like, it doesn't really make sense as a critique. I also like, it did kind of was like feel a bit out of place, and was like, okay, I don't know what this adds to the performance, like looking at it, but like to to act like it's like too crude when like this is Drag Race and there's like a joke about sex every 5 minutes is weird. So, yeah, I just didn't get that. But, you know, Rockham's going to place high in this episode, and we're going to kind of, you know, keep the same gist. Jada wins. Moving on to episode 3, where all of our queens come together, and we go into our next challenge. The world's worst challenge is upon us. Now, obviously, since all of our contestants are the same and our like winners of the challenges are the same, it would be implied that all the groups would be the same. Now, for the placement this episode, I decided to change it up a bit. This episode is the world's worst challenge, the like America's Got Talent, like you know, spoof, I guess you could say. I decided to give the team of the like grandmas, the like, you know, the old sisters, I forget what they're called, um, the Del Rio triplets, that's right. I decided to put them in the top because I just think they did the best as a collective group, and I think just like looking at individual placements, they would all be up there, and it just makes the most sense. And obviously giving the win to Heidi and Closet. Heidi should have won this episode hands down. It would have been such great redemption from like some parts which she was lacking in her first episode, like her runway, and that first episode where her headpiece falls off, you know? It would have been such great redemption, like immediately for Heidi, but they didn't give it to her. I mean, they did place her high in the episode, but I think she should have won the challenge, and I think Gigi and Jackie deserve the high placement as well, for sure. Um, our bottoms, we do have like the same bottoms, except I switched Nikki and Crystal because I think Crystal did worse in the challenge. Honestly, I think Crystal probably did it the worst in the challenge, sadly for her. But Crystal and Dahlia Sin are going to lip sync to Problem by Ariana Grande. And Dahlia did so bad in that lip sync. That was too hard. She didn't do terribly. She just stared into the camera like the whole time, and it didn't make sense. And I think based off of the lip sync performances that we saw from Crystal in the season, the one to like on the floor and her finale lip syncs, I think Crystal very well could have done better than Dahlia in this lip sync. So I decided to give the win to Crystal here, and Dahlia is still going to be the pork chop of the season. I don't know why it sounded like I said pork chop, but whatever. And then yeah, Nikki is going to place low instead of the bottom two, and everybody else is going to play safe. So yeah, let's move on to episode 4. Episode 4 is the Ball Challenge, and almost all the placements this episode I decided to keep the same. I did decide to take Gigi out of the winning spot and give it to Jada instead. There has been, since this episode has aired, people online have said Jada should have won, no, Gigi should have won, and frankly, either of them could have won. I'm okay with either of them winning. I think they both could have made sense to win. I just chose Jada's because I liked her outfits overall better than I like Gigi's. I think the main difference was I felt there was more like nuance and creativity within her actual look that Jada made than there was with Gigi's. Even though overall I think like I would rather wear the look that Gigi made. I just think for the like criteria of the design challenge, I think Jada's outfit that she made was better. So I decided to give the win to Jada here. And then Gigi is going to place high along with Nikki, who placed high originally. She did great in the challenge. And then our bottom 3 are exactly the same, and their placements are exactly the same. A lot of people think Aiden Zane should have been in the bottom for this challenge. I just flat out disagree. I think her like old school baseball like look that she did was just like I want that on my body. It's so good. I love it. I understand if you don't like it, but I love it. That might just be a thing of like my aesthetic tends to go a bit more darker, and so I like this kind of like almost like gothic old school baseball player. But I don't know, I just was obsessed with it, and it's how it happened originally, so I feel fair in keeping it. The bottom 2 are Brita Filter and Rock'em Sakura, and they are going to lip sync to S&M by Rihanna. And poor Rock'em struggles to get out of her outfit, and it's really just the death sentence for her. and Britta's gonna win and she's gonna go home. But I love Rockham. I love her YouTube channel. She's so great. Her content's amazing. Um, and yeah, so sadly we have to say goodbye to Rockham, and we move on to episode 5. Episode 5 is the Gaze Anatomy Acting Challenge. Originally in this challenge, we had like half the contestants were like in the top and half were in the bottom. I decided to go away with that because I had opinions on who should be in the top and the bottom, and I just felt like fine with, having the standard format for this episode. Originally, the queen that won this challenge is not going to win this challenge anymore because she did not do the best in it, at least in my opinion. And Widow Von Du is going to win the challenge instead because she did great in this challenge. Her like giving the birth, it was just perfect. Her role was amazing, and I really think she should have won this challenge. But one of the queens that got one of the original high placements, Jan, is going to keep it because she also did great with her role. And the queen that won originally is just going to place high instead. But if you want to just get rid of her altogether, then I would put Jackie as the other high placement if we're just in a universe where she doesn't exist. And then everybody that is currently safe is safe. And then our bottoms are Brita Filter, Heidi N Closet, and Nikki Doll. Those were the 3 that were kind of like the true bottom 3 originally, based off of the edit and what we saw. I think they were the last 3 on stage, if I'm correct. I might not be correct, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Britta is going to place low, and then our bottom 2 is going to be Heidi N Closet and Nikki Doll, as they were originally, and they're going to lip sync to Hard to Break by Kim Petras. And Heidi N Closet is going to kill the lip sync, and she's going to stay, and then sadly Nikki Doll is going to sashay away. But Nikki Doll is so fun, and she really killed it as host of Drag Race France. She is great. A lot of people did not give her enough credit when it was announced that she was going to be hosting. They were like, she isn't going to do good, and then she killed it. But I fucking love her. She's great. I love her aesthetic. She's so pretty. We stand Nikki Doll. I also didn't really sing my praises of Dahlia Sin earlier, but I love Dahlia's aesthetic. I'm a person who loves the kind of like subtle like horror elements. Like I don't like going full horror, but I like casual horror. And so Dahlia's and Aiden's, especially their what are their like designs, fashions, aesthetics. That's the word I'm trying to think of, aesthetics. I love their aesthetics. I love Dahlia's aesthetic, and she's great. I just wanted to sing my praises of her because I think I was going to earlier, but I just didn't. I forgot about it. So, yeah. Let's move on to episode 6. Episode 6 is the Snatch game. And I decided to give Gigi the win as she got originally. A lot of people think that Jackie should have won, and I understand Jackie winning, but I personally thought Gigi was funnier. We just got more jokes out of her, really, and I just really, if I had to choose one of those characters I wanted to keep seeing, like, just do random shit, I wanted to see Gigi. And this was, again, remember that this was at the beginning of the season, before we had seen her do the robot character, like, a few times. So this was fresh robot, and it was funny when we first saw it. So, I really would genuinely think I would give the win to Gigi here. Jackie's going to place high she did originally, and we're going to move Heidi N Closet up into the high placement. Because her Leslie Jones was just so good, and it really carried all the way throughout. And I think those are really the only 3 performances of the Snatch game that were really solid the whole way through. So yeah, and our bottom placements are going to be exactly the same. Crystal's going to place low, and then Brita Filter and Aiden Zane are our bottom 2, and they're going to lip sync to Let It Go by somebody. I don't know who covered it in that episode. I was going to say Idina Menzel, but she did not sing that she did not sing the version of it that was used. By Cassie Levy is the person who sung it. All right, good for you, Cassie. I'm assuming that's the person who did it on Broadway originally. That's my guess. But yeah, Britta has all these tricks up her sleeve. She's going to stay. Aiden is going to go. And Aiden Zane is such an iconic drag queen. When the season 12 was airing, it was like one of the first seasons I actually like watched live. Actually, no, it was the first season I watched live, I'm pretty sure. I feel like I've mentioned different seasons in the past of for being the first one I watched live. It was season 12. It absolutely was season 12. But Aiden Zane was my favorite preseason. I love her aesthetic so much, and I really want to see her on All Stars. But yeah, she's gonna go home here, and we're gonna move on to episode 7. My rejudging of episode 7 is kind of boring because I kept every placement the same. I think that Gigi killed this challenge. I also, a lot of people think that Jan should have won this challenge, and I understand if you would put Jan as the winner, but I think really, if you're looking at who embodied Madonna, I think Gigi really took it in terms of like the battle between those two, because I do think those two did the best for sure. But Jan's Madonna kind of felt like Jan doing Madonna, but Gigi's Madonna felt like Madonna to me, if that makes any sense. But yeah, those two obviously did great. And then Crystal really shone in a role that really was not meant to be a role that really shined that much. I mean, and she kind of, she advocated to like make it more funny. I'm pretty sure she's the one who had the idea to, you know, have like the reverberation, like shit happening all the way throughout it. So, I think Krista really deserved her high placement here. And then Jackie Cox is going to place low. She didn't do bad. She just kind of happened to do the worst out of the 7, or I guess out of all the 7 that, including her and the people who did better than her, she just happened to do the worst out of all of them. Even though she really didn't do that bad, it just felt slightly stiff for some reason. Don't know why, but that's kind of the vibe that you get from it. But Heidi and Closet and Britta Filter are going to be the bottom 2 this episode, and they're going to lip sync to Burning Up by Madonna. And Heidi does a pretty dang good job on this lip sync, but also Britta kills this lip sync too. But based off of track record, and also because I think it was pretty dead even, it just makes more sense to keep Heidi here. And then Britta Filter is going to go home, but Britta Filter is an icon, and she got so much hate when she really shouldn't have gotten that much hate. I mean, the show did portray her as a massive asshole, but she shouldn't have been portrayed that way. I think she should have gotten more complicated at it, which I like that they're doing more now, is that they're like having these people, you know, be the villains, because there kind of has to be some sort of villain, but, you know, not making them out to be like scum of the earth. It would have been so much better if they had portrayed Britta as somebody who had all these expectations going out of somebody who was going to kill it, but then just kept not excelling where she thought she would excel, and having her come to terms with that. I think that would have been a much better edit, you know, to show her as a really complicated person who is having complicated feelings and is, you know, been hyped up as being somebody who's going to do really well, and then she's not doing well and she doesn't know what to do about it. So I think that would have been much better to show on our television screens. And I wish they would have shown more of that, because Britta Filter deserved better. But she is going to go home here. And we're going to move on to episode 8. Episode 8 is the Droop Challenge. And this is the first episode where we have some really big shakeup from what actually happened on the season. We are going to keep the kind of 4 highs and 4 bottoms placements that happened on the episode originally. I think that was very fair when it came to, you know, what actually happened, and that we had 4 really great performances of the challenge and then 4 not good performances in the challenge. Heidi in Closet is still going to win because I think she deserves it. Her, you know, Heidi Hydrates Cream was just, you know, it was great. It really made sense, and it really fit the theming of the challenge, which is supposed to be like a Goop parody. It was one of the few concepts that actually, I feel like, really kind of fit it and made sense. And was also one of the funniest. So she's going to win. And then Crystal, Jackie, and Jada are going to place high. Now, our bottom placements, originally Jan and Widow were the bottom 2. However, I decided to put Jan out of the bottom 2 because hers didn't deserve to be in the bottom 2. I think out of those bottom 4, I think Jan probably did the best. She really it was overall fine, you know. It was kind of like Alyssa's commercial challenge in season 5, but done like not just slightly worse, not slightly worse, a bit worse, but you know, I really wasn't bottom 2 worthy here, and neither was Gigi. Some people would put Gigi in the bottom for this. I wouldn't. Um, there were a couple moments in hers that I actually thought were kind of funny, and while it didn't really make sense with the challenge, I think the commercial challenge is really first and foremost a comedy challenge. Well, not first and foremost. I think it really is branding and comedy. You really have to brand it and make it funny. And I think out of those 4, Gigi's was kind of the funniest to me, not gonna lie. But yeah, she's gonna place low. And then our bottom 2 are going to be Widow and a certain queen that is gonna go home this episode because in the lip sync to This Is My Night by Shaka Khan, Widow Von'Du would crush it. Now, I have not mentioned the queen by name this entire time because I didn't really know how to go about mentioning her at all, so I just kind of decided to just like not name her. Um, but in keeping with how would I judge these seasons, I did this with Drag Race Down Under season 2, and I'm doing with this season. People who really don't deserve to be in this competition are just going to be kind of not talked about and then kind of swept away at a certain point. And thankfully, these are really the genuine placements I would have given her. Really, all those 6, that one high, and this bottom 2 in which she is going to go home. So, yeah, it's really kind of all I have to say. I wish it would have made sense to just get rid of her entirely, but that doesn't fit with the narrative I've already established with Drag Race Down Under season. I think I said Drag Race Down Under season 2 just a second ago. I meant season 1 with, you know, Miss Racist over there. But yeah, it wouldn't have made sense to just get rid of her because then it'd be a 7-5 split. Then who do you put in the other group? It doesn't make much sense. So I decided to just not talk about her, and we're going to send her along our way, and we're going to peacefully move on to episode 9. Episode 9 is the Choices 2020 debate political challenge situation. And this is the first episode of the season where we have a contestant who's here that was not here originally, being Jan. How do I think Jan would have done in this challenge? I don't think she would have done well. Looking at the other challenges in the season where Jan, this season and All-Star 6, where Jan had to do improv, and I guess, well, really, for the purpose of this video, just looking at the earlier ones in the season, she had to improv. Like the Snatch game, she was safe. And like, I guess if we are going to All-Star 6, the Pink Table Talk, she was in the bottom 2 for, not bottom 2, bottom 3 for. And she just never really did super well in these improv situations on Drag Race. So I do think she very well would have been in the bottom 3, and I would wager the bottom 2. I do understand putting her as low, but I personally would have put her in the bottom. Now, there is a lot of talk online that Gigi should be in the bottom of this challenge, and I almost agree. However, rewatching the episode earlier today, I made this this PowerPoint actually a long time ago. I say a long time ago, but it was like a bit over a month ago. But I rewatched Choices 2020 today because I wanted to make sure that my deductions on the placements of this episode were correct, and I do think they were. I do think Gigi did better than Jackie did. We see from the very beginning, after the second Canadian joke from Jackie, that the judges do not like it and they want her to stop, and she continues. Whereas we really only get the robot situation, I think, twice in total from Gigi. And I think her content's just overall funnier. And we do have to talk about her runway, which just did not fit the brief. And if I was the head judge here, I would choose these placements, but I would specifically talk to Gigi and be like, hey, this runway does not fit the brief. And honestly, it's kind of offensive. So fucking step your shit up, dude. Because we don't want this. But yeah. Widow is going to be taken out of the bottom, as she was originally, because she didn't deserve it. I think with all the performances here, she deserved to play safe. She had some good moments, and she had some moments that were pretty fine, and her runway look was pretty good. So I think that definitely takes her out of the bottom, but I would not put her in the top. I would just put her as safe. And then our high placements and our win placement are exactly the same. Jada's going to win because she killed it. Heidi and Crystal are going to place high. And then we have the bottom two of Jackie Cox and Jan, and they're going to lip sync to Firework by Katy Perry. And Jackie is going to win because she really did a great job. In that moment where she's just standing at the front and the light shines on her face and her hijab while she's doing the lip sync is just magical. And I think with all certainty in my brain that Jackie would win this. So sadly, Jan is going to go home here, but Jan is a great drag queen who I think is pretty misunderstood. And I really would honestly like to see Jan on another season of Drag Race. I feel like we have more growth we need from, not growth in terms of like she's not good enough growth, but I feel like I want to see more character growth like on television of Jan. You know what I mean? I want to see her on television more and see what she's feeling and thinking because she's a very complicated person, and I say complicated, I mean that in a genuinely good way. But I just, yeah, I want to see more from her on my television screen. And her drag is cool. So yeah, let's move on to episode 10. Episode 10 is the makeover challenge of this season. And here we have Widow Von Du, where we did not have her originally. Now, if you go on her Instagram, I don't know if it's still up, but you can find her doing a makeover on somebody. And I'm assuming this is the outfit that she would have used in this challenge. And the outfit is not stellar. I mean, it is very well put together, I gotta say, but just like fashion-wise, it's really just not my taste. And it just doesn't, I just don't know what it's going for personally. So that's why I decided to put Widow Von Du low here, because even though I was not the biggest fan of the outfit, the makeup that she did was super good, and overall the outfit I think was still better than Heidi's and Jackie's. And also the person that she did the makeup on, if I remember correctly, was of like a decently different size than she was. So I feel confident in the fact that if she got somebody who is much taller or much skinnier or much shorter than her, then she would be able to still turn it out. So I decided to go for the low placement here. And I decided to switch the top two placements. I do think Crystal did better than Jada here, and so I would give this win to Crystal. A lot of people are like, Crystal should have gotten the win, Jada should have gotten the win. Personally, for me, Crystal should have gotten the win. So she's going to get her first win here instead, where Jada is going to place high. Gigi is going to place safe, because this is how I do final sixes. Everyone gets one of the placements. I do think Gigi would do better than Widow. Even though her outfits were, a bit more on the basic side, I do think she did better, or she would do better than Widow would. So yeah, she's going to play safe, and her bottom two are going to be Heidi and Closet and Jackie Cox, and they're going to lip sync to Kill the Lights by Alex Newell, and I would give this win to Heidi. This was originally a double save, but for the way that I am going to go throughout this season and the way that I like to do things, I think Heidi should get the sole win here because I do think she did better. But Jackie Cox is an amazing drag queen, and she really slayed throughout the whole of the season, getting placing high 5 times because she did great in most of the challenges. Just sadly, she's going to go here without a win still in this scenario, but she's really a great drag queen. And I really like the way that she plays with different time periods and stuff, where she goes 60s and then go modern and then blah, 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 blah. I love her. I love her. She's great. Yeah, we're going to move on to episode 11. This is the One Queen Show challenge. Widow was not here originally either, but I do think Widow would do a pretty dang good job in this challenge. If I remember correctly, just based off of what I know about her, we know that Widow can host and do kind of comedy things, and I think overall she did pretty solid in comedy challenges. I mean, just going odds on, you would think that Jada and Heidi would have done better in this challenge, but they didn't. But just, odds are, so I guess the odds of Widow doing well maybe should be lower as well, but I think the odds are Widow would do perfectly fine in this challenge and most likely even place high, which is where I put her. Crystal Method is still going to win this challenge. Now that Jackie isn't here, Crystal Method is kind of the clear out in front winner. And Gigi is going to play safe because even though she did have her cue cards and stuff kind of set up, and it was kind of like, she had jokes and they landed, and she just genuinely did better than Jada and Heidi did. So she's going to play safe here. And our bottom two are going to be Jada Essence Hall and Heidi in a Closet, and they're going to lip sync to 1999 by Prince. And sadly, Jada does better. Well, not sadly, Jada does better, but I guess also sadly, Jada does better than Heidi, and so Heidi's going to be sent home here. But Heidi in Closet is one of my top 3 favorite drag queens of all time, and that is not exaggeration. I adore Heidi in Closet so much. I stated earlier that Aiden was my favorite going into the season, but as the weeks went on throughout the season, it turned into Heidi in Closet, and now Heidi in Closet is just like my baby darling angel. I love her. I could watch her do anything. Rumors are she's going to be on the next All-Star season, and I'm very excited to see her on there, and I hope she wins it because she is just stunning, and I love really the kind of underdog story that she has, and she's just amazing. So sadly, Heidi is going to go here, but yeah, we're going to move on to episode 12. Since we're already down to our top 4, we are going to treat this like it was treated in seasons 9 and 10, where our top 4 are going to compete in our song challenge, and they're all going to move on to the finale. They're all going to do the, losing is the new winning, mirror song, whatever, all that stuff. Now, I think this is a decent opportunity to talk about some of the storylines and stuff this season. We haven't really talked about them much. We talked about Britta's, but I think kind of the storylines of this season would be a lot of kind of like solo kind of character storyline situations going on throughout. In our top 4, we do have Widow Von Du and Crystal Method, so in this version, we spend a lot of time developing the relationship of our 2 Missouri queens here. And I don't know how strong a relationship there was pre-season. It didn't seem like a lot, but it seemed like there was a little bit of content there. But I think we would really kind of extend the ride of watching those 2 and how they interact and how they support each other and how they might not support each other. And then I think after Britta gets eliminated and we have her as this kind of like complicated, I don't want to say villain, but I think that's really the most apt word, this kind of like complicated villain figure. I think that helm gets taken up by Gigi Goode later on in the season, where she just kind of takes over the role of the complicated. She started off the season doing super well in the challenges, placing in the top of every challenge up until like just past the halfway point except one. But in the final 4 episodes until this episode, she's consistently just barely escaping the bottom 2. And so I think that kind of complicated, I should be doing better, but I'm not, and it's frustrating, and I don't know why. I think Gigi kind of takes over that helm here. And then I think Jada is kind of get this similar situation that we get with a lot of our pageant queens on Drag Race, which I really am not the biggest fan of, but it just kind of ended up to be the way that her kind of story ended up working out, where we see her as this pageant queen, and then we get to see how funny she is. And I feel like in the sense, and kind of in the sense I just used it, but also in the sense of the storyline that gets used so much, the concept of a pageant queen is kind of just used as like a vehicle to kind of show that she's not a comedy person, and she's not great at comedy, she's not up to date on the fashions, whatever. Like, it's really just kind of used as an initial vehicle to like say that she's like proper and well poised and put together. Like, that's like it. So I really don't like that, the way that it's used, but I think we really just kind of get a similar, but I guess less like stark, like she can do comedy, she can act, edit kind of similar to like Trinity Taylor or well, Trinity the Tuck on season 9, where, you know, like her edit, but you know, like kind of like less like harsh on like the discussion of like what a pageant queen is and does, you know? And we should also get more of her personality throughout the season because Jada at some points originally gets a bit sidelined in the edit, but I think we kind of focus her more as a bit more of like a main character throughout the season, and I think her and Heidi and Jackie probably get the 3 kind of like main solid character edits throughout the season. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how I feel that all would go. So the next episode is the reunion episode, so we don't have to talk about it and we can move on to the finale. Here we are at the finale. Now, I'm going to keep this season in the scenario where COVID-19 exists and it disrupts how the normal finale format would work. The way that I kind of have done this series so far, and I am going to do it, is really everything is going to be said within the time and situations in which it actually occurred. So, COVID does exist in this universe, and that does change how the finale works. And the finale is going to work the same way as it did originally on the show, where they're going to get, you know, some resources in which to make their own kind of like lip syncs to different songs, and they're going to do a final lip sync to a Survivor by Destiny's Child. And instead of having like eliminating 2 and then doing a top 2, I just decided to keep all 4 here. They all 4 have very similar track records. Like nobody has done substantially worse than any of the others competition-wise. So I decided to just keep them all as the top 4. And the winner of the season is going to be Jada Essence Hall. Jada has the best track record out of all these contestants. Does have the most amount of wins with 3. Everybody else has 2. And I was about to say the least amount of bottom placements, which is not true because Gigi has 0 bottom 2 placements. But in terms of actual like bottom 3 placements, she does have the least because she only has 1 where everybody else has 2. So yeah, Jada just kind of does the best throughout the season, and I think she would have been like a pretty main character in this scenario. So I think it's the fairest situation in which to give her the win. And I love her, and I love all the rest of these queens in the top 4. They are all amazing drag queens, and I kind of had less time to highlight them throughout the video because they all like didn't get eliminated actually, but I really do love all of them, and they're all amazing. These are the track records for this season, as you can see. I grade top 2 placements as 4.5 points. Because I feel like it's worth more than a high placement, which is 4, and worth less than a win, obviously, which is 5. So I grade them as 4.5, just for, you know, all of our knowledge. So yeah, these are the track records of the season. And as you can see at the end, they're all super close with each other. I mean, Gigi's literally 0.5 points behind Jada, and Crystal's only 0.2 points behind Jada, which is, you know, basically nothing in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, that is going to be it for this video. If you liked it, please like it and subscribe if you wish. If you want to comment, please do that. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you all in another one. And please leave it down in the comments below if you want me to do any certain series or any seasons of Drag Race for this, because I'm really open to doing any of them. And if you want me to do a certain one, most likely that'll be one of the next ones I do. So make your voice heard, you know, choices 2020. So again, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care, and bye-bye.